Hey guys, it's Mike. Welcome back to the shop. This week I've got a couple little things. I'm going to take a break on the leveling kit for the smithy because I don't have the stuff I need to finish it up right now. It's ordered, I just got to wait. It'll probably be next week's video. If it comes in early enough this week, I'll see if I can get it put into this video and hopefully get that finished up. But this week I had a lag in my orders. I've got a couple orders coming for some muzzle brakes and some general fabrication work. So this week is kind of a bye week. That's why I chose this week to try to get the smithy all leveled out. But I figured I'd not stay away from the shop. I'd come out here and try to get some other things done. Last week's video I did tried to do a little bit of an arc shot. I kept the camera back quite a ways because I didn't have the hard shell case on, and even with the hard shell case on, I'm still not real keen on having the camera that close to the welding arc. So I figured, it probably wouldn't be too much work to make up a little case for the GoPro to go in. I've got some real cheap, I think it's 1/8 angle iron or angle aluminum that I got for another project, never used. So I'm gonna cut that up. It's, I think, 2.5 by 2.5, somewhere around there, which will be perfect for the GoPro. I'll put one of those short mounts inside of it and be able to pop the camera in and out pretty easily. And that way it'll give it a complete enclosure with the welding lens in front of it. So I can put the camera virtually right on top of, give or take a few inches, pretty much right on top of the weld. That way I can get that footage. I'm not trying to take over and start doing welding stuff, but it's just something I want to do. I've always wanted to try to get arc shots of my own welding, not just for you guys to see how horrible I am sometimes, but so I can see it for myself. I can see what I'm doing. I can go back and look at it and see, okay, that's where I messed up. My arc length was too long, or I wasn't oscillating, or I was oscillating and I shouldn't have been oscillating. So it'll be beneficial for everybody, I think. If you already know how to weld and you're an expert welder, probably not so much, unless you want a good laugh watching somebody like me try to lay down a decent bead. But I figure this will also give me a good excuse to weld some aluminum, because I'll have to tack the pieces together. I don't know if I'm going to weld it completely out. I might just tack it together and then use some silicone to seal up all the edges and just leave it like that, or I might weld it all the way out. I'm going to do some arc shots with the TIG welder on AC, and I'll probably just put a couple on this video. I want to try to do a separate video with the Everlast review, so that if you guys don't want to see an Everlast review, you can just skip by that video. The other thing I want to talk about was I've got some new tools along with the Hypertherm and the new camera. Just basic little things. I got a drill doctor because I'm not that great at sharpening drill bits, and I wanted something to aid me a little bit with that. So I got the one that goes from, I think, down to 3/32 up to 3/4. So it'll work for most of the stuff I do. I don't really go above 3/4 all that much, and I just got a couple bits that are bigger than that, and I can do the faceted grind on those. And that works pretty good on the big ones. It's a little bit harder on the small, so this ought to help me and speed it up when I need to grind all the drills. So I think we're gonna jump into. I figured I'm gonna do this video a little bit differently. I have a concept in my mind, but I haven't drawn up any plans. So I figured I'd reposition the camera and kind of show you guys how I go through making some random project like a GoPro case for welding. One of the other things I wanted to do before I started going into all the planning stuff is show you guys the old camera I was working with. So this is the camera that I was using. There's no brand name on it anywhere. It just says HD camera. And this awesome piece of metalwork here, this is the microphone right here, and everybody was saying that my audio really sucked. So I was thinking about different things I could do, and there's no external mic port on here. There's the out ports in the back, and that's it. So I was thinking, I could make up something just to stick right here, so it'd help pick up the audio a little better, the sound bouncing off of here. And it's actually worked fairly well. It looks really dumb, but it doesn't really interfere with anything. The battery compartment opens up all right. And these are the really crappy connections that get corroded really easily. And also the way the battery fits in here, if you barely bumped it, it would lose connectivity for just a split second, and I would lose the entire section of film that I had recorded on that piece. So if I hit record and I was doing something, 10 minutes later I bumped it, that whole 10 minutes would be gone. So that is my hokey little camera setup that I was using. Now I've moved on to the GoPro, and that's what we're going to be making the case for today. So the angle aluminum that I have is 2x2. The GoPro height is about 3.5 inches with the mount on. What I'm gonna do, I'm probably gonna put one of these adhesive mounts on a small piece of aluminum or steel, something I can stick it on that I can slide it into the case, and it'll stay put on the base. So I can just slide it in and out. The way the GoPro mounts come off, they have to be squeezed from the side and pushed out. So no matter which way I put it in, if I was to put the mount in this way, with this being the front, it wouldn't slide out because it would hit it. And if I put it in the other way, I'd have to somehow reach in beyond the stuff to be able to hit the detents that lock the mount in place. So I'll probably just stick something in there I can slide in and out that'll put it in the same spot every time. The other thing that I need to measure is the lens position from the bottom, which you guys aren't going to be able to see very well, but the center is about 2 3/8 of an inch. So if I add a 1/8 piece of aluminum for this to sit on to slide in and out, that'll put it right at 2.5 inches, will be the dead center. So once we get everything made, what I plan on doing is making the box, putting the camera in there, marking where the lens is, and then cutting that spot out so that I don't mess anything up along the way. So width-wise is about the same. It's a little bit under 3.5 inches. I don't know how well you guys can see that. It's probably everything's upside down for you too. But that is, of course my wife starts sending me text messages. That is right at 3 inches from the edge of this to the edge here. So I'll just make it 3.5, so that I might make it 4, and that way it'll give me plenty of room on each side. I think should probably get the welding glass and see what size it is, measure that out, and see what size the window needs to be inside of the case. So let's do that real quick. Alright, so you guys can see some more of my awesome metalwork here. This awesome mount that I had for putting it over. This piece is bent for the other case, which isn't as thick as this one, but I just slipped it over like that, and it was just sitting right up against the lens, and it seemed to work pretty good. So that's probably what I'm gonna try to get from the fit of this thing, is try to get it to where it's pressed pretty much right up against the glass. And this lens is 4 1/4 by 2 inches. So the case will be at least 4 1/4 wide, because I don't want the lens overlapping. I'll probably do 4 3/4 or somewhere around there, so that I can slide it in. I'll make a piece where I can slide it in and out, and then have a a lip that I can flip over to keep any light coming in from anywhere but through the lens. Alright, so our dimensions here, if I go 4 3/4, it's going to give me 1/4 inch on each side of the glass, which will be plenty, I think. So I'm going to do a hokey little drawing here. Of course, I do it right over the top of the line. So this measurement this way is going to be 2 inches. This way is going to be 4 3/4 inches. And then it's going to be, I didn't even measure that. I probably should measure that too as a footprint of this. Is over 2 inches, so we'll just do a box that is, actually that's not 2 inches, that should be 4 inches. And then the top of the box will be 4 inches as well. So it's going to be a 4x4 box looking at it lengthwise. Is going to be 4x4, and then length is going to be 4 3/4, and then I'll cut a section out for dropping the lens in. I haven't quite figured out exactly how I'm going to fit the lens inside. The lens is about the same thickness as the aluminum, and what I was kind of thinking about doing is cutting the front out like this and then cutting another piece that matches and then cutting one more piece that overlaps this just a hair on the sides and then tack it all together, and that'll give me a lip that this will slide into and it'll retain itself that way. And I can also take a little piece of plastic or even a piece of, well, I probably want to use plastic since it'll be next to hot molten metal, something that won't easily catch on fire like paper, but I can put something over the top that'll completely cover the top lip and block all the light from getting in. So first thing we need to do is cut 4 pieces to 4 3/4 of an inch long. Alright, so what I'm going to do to cut this, since I'm in love with my plasma cutter, I'm going to mark with this straight edge a line on each side. Actually not, I think I'm just going to leave it like that. And then I'm going to use this straight edge as my guide for my plasma cutter. This is just a cheapo, like Ace Hardware model, and I'll be able to, I think, replace this for like $6. I'm not too worried about this if I ruin it, but I want something that I know is going to be fairly accurate and straight. And what I did to mark these out, the other one, I measured the distance from the edge that the plasma cutter is going to cut, and I gave it an extra 1/8 of an inch, so that when I hold this, line it up with that line, and do my cut, the offset will give me a little bit more than what I need for all the parts. And I'll just do this all the way down, one at a time, as I cut. There we go. So I'm going to get the plasma cutter fired up. Make sure I throw my ground on beforehand this time so I don't forget 100 times while I'm making the video. Cutter's good. Air pressure's good. Find my cutting glasses right there. And I'll put gloves on too, just in case. It looks like the first one's just a hair bit longer than the others, but that'll work just fine. That's the other thing I like about the plasma cutter is aluminum transfers heat really fast, and these are just barely warm. You know, I can touch it. They're a little bit hot on the skin, but with a thin pair of gloves on, it's fine. You can handle them, and it leaves a fairly nice edge. Alright, I've got the two ends brushed off, clamped up here. I've got my old school welding filming adapter set up that I'm going to slip over. I'm just going to put a tack on each side. I might have to flip it around and put another tack here, but I'm going to tack them two together, these two together, and then I'll tack the other two together. And then I'll put the whole thing together and make all the cuts out that I need to make. So I'm gonna grab the cover, see if I can do this without disturbing the camera. Apparently that is too much weight for this setup that I have here. Let me figure out another way to do this. Alright, we are back in business, the lens is on. I haven't welded aluminum in, I don't know, months, so we'll see how this goes. That is getting hot. Time for a TIG finger. Alright, besides dipping it there at the beginning, it welded out alright. I didn't do a whole lot of penetration, but this piece isn't like it's going to be a super heavy retention piece. Not like there's going to be a lot of weight on it. It's going to be a little tiny case for camera. I will probably grind the other ones just a little bit to get a little bit better penetration, because it looks like I only really got penetration on the two tacks and nothing in the middle here. So I know it's probably halfway penetrated through. Well, it doesn't look too horrible for having not welded for quite a long while. Let's see if I can get this a little bit closer, if it'll focus. So, not my worst weld, not my best weld. Kind of mediocre. So, my camera battery is getting kind of low, so I think I'm going to switch batteries, and I don't think I'm going to spend any more time filming the welding. I'm going to get this part done and then bring you guys back for everything else. Alright, so here's the last of the welds on the box, and it's a little bit better. This is the fourth weld of the day, and the first time I've done aluminum in probably 6 or 7 months. But it looks a little bit better than it was when I was really nervous and on camera and everything else. So I think it's going to wrap it up for the night. It's almost 9 o'clock. I got to get my kids to bed, and I will talk to you guys later. Alright, so here's the box. I welded it all together and then ground the welds off flat best I could. It's a little bit crooked. It has a little bit of a wobble a couple different ways, but that should be irrelevant. This is the section that I'm going to cut out on top here for the welding lens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut just a hair under this size so that I can get the lens to slide in, and I'm going to put a little piece around the side like that so that the welding lens will have something to register on and it'll slide in to stop lined up. If I put the case in, you can see it's pretty close to being dead center there. I'll have a piece of 1/4 inch aluminum this will sit on to raise it up just a hair off the bottom, and that should work well. Alright, I'm getting ready to cut out the view screen area, and I was going to try to use a different kind of a straight edge to get perfect lines and everything, and I might still, but what I want to do is cut just a quick little hole out of the middle so that as I'm making these long slow cuts, trying to get precise, there's somewhere for all the air and gases to go instead of just blowing out. there's a tiny little hole in this side, and I did that so that I can completely close everything up. So let me get to it real quick. So I can get this footage here for you guys without the air compressor running like crazy. Move the camera a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see that. Yeah. All right. So this is the cutout. Let's say my wavy hand cut. I don't have a real steady hand, and I nipped a little bit out of here, which that should be irrelevant because I'm going to try to cut a piece out to a little bit bigger than this to drop the lens into. So now that that's done, I'm just going to clean up these edges a little bit. I'll probably get my little Dremel out or something and just zip those edges real quick, smooth them out. I'll probably use, actually I have a carbide burr, a little die grinder. I could probably zip through that stuff pretty quick and just clean up those edges. And then it's on to the next step. Last week's video was kind of short, so I didn't want to put it all together or put just the one little short video, so I wanted to wait until I got my next job in, which I did. It's a Browning A5 barrel. The customer wants me to clean up the front of the muzzle because it was cut with a bandsaw, and then make and mount one of my shotgun brakes. So there's a couple issues with getting this trued up and cleaned up. First issue is the back side. This section here is too big to fit inside my spindle, so I'm going to have to hang on to it here, which there's no meat inside here. So first I'm going to have to machine probably a chunk of brass is what I'll use to drop into here, and I'll hopefully be able to get at least 2 jaws on. Not going to be a real super strong hold, so I'm going to have to use my steady rest. So this is going to have to be done on the Craftsman, not the Smithy. And what I'm going to do is I've got a outbound spider that I've machined up, and it's a fairly good fit. I just need to machine the pass-through just a hair bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this as close to the end as I can, and I'm going to try to get it centered up, just eyeball centered the best I can, and put in the steady rest. Then I will in the forejaw, center the end of the barrel up, get this spinning true inside the steady rest, and then use the 4 points to center the shotgun muzzle. And what I'll probably do is indicate off the inside of the barrel, since the barrel has a vented rib, and that way I'll be able to just touch up this side here, or the outside of the muzzle, get it squared off. Alright, so here's what we're looking at for the back half here. There's this piece that does not go all the way around, and I can't get it far enough into the smithy to chuck up onto the barrel. If I could get it in the smithy where I could chuck up here, I would be a little more, let me figure out where my camera's at. If I get it to chuck up a little bit further out, I wouldn't be as worried. I'm just doing real light cutting on the end here just to true up the surface, because right now it has a little bit of an angle to it. But my smithy spindle bore is 1 1/8 inch, and this is well over that. So what I'm going to do, what I'm going to try to do is machine a piece of brass. I've got some brass stock sitting around, and fill this void with a piece of brass, and then I'm going to put soft jaws on the forejaw on my Atlas, and I'm going to try to get 2 jaws onto this part, and then the other 2 jaws onto the brass. And I might machine the brass so that it actually goes into the chamber a little bit, and then I'll put the outbound spider on, get it running true in the my mind just went completely blank, in the steady rest. And then once I get this running true on the outside edge, then I'll get an indicator on the inside of the muzzle, and I'll get it spinning true. And once I got that spinning true, then I can just come in and just kiss this edge off and just clean up this surface. The barrel measures a little bit over 18, so there's plenty of room to clean off. I don't think I'll have to clean off too much, maybe a 1/16 of an inch to get it all cleaned off and running true. And then I'll start doing the work for making the brake, which, looking at this rib, I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see it, but it is the same thickness down here at the bottom as it is up here. All the other vented rib barrels that I've done have had a section up here that was clear, and then the rib starts here, and they've only been as thick as these center pieces. So I haven't had a problem with it having enough force to hold on. I'm a little bit worried about this specific kind. So what I may do is make some set screws and check with the customer to see if that'll be all right, and I might use set screws with brass stoppers on them. So let's get over to the smithy, and we'll get to machining the brass section for this. Alright, so here's the outbound spider. I have it checked up so I can come in here. This diameter right here is about what I need, and there's a little lip right here, so first we're going to take that off. Set my feeds real quick. Let's see. About 5 thousandths per revolution. don't know how well you guys can see that, or how well this video is turning out. I just made a new mount, so I have a magnetic holder for my GoPro, testing it out for the first time. Hey guys, we're back on the shotgun here. I've got the barrel trued up now. I started to film it and got the spider clamped on to the end here, got it all centered up in the forejaw, turned my camera on, and then when I took the life center off, I slid it back, knocked the camera. I didn't realize I hit it, but it spun the camera around, so I have like a 5-minute video of the back end of the Craftsman lathe with no machining on it. So I didn't get that on film, but I'll turn the camera here and show you guys how it turned out. It turned out pretty good, and I'm just going to start on some hand filing to round off the end of the rib here. I already started and got the top of the rib cleaned off. I'm just getting ready to start on the bottom to get that so it'll fit the muzzle brake when it slides on. So I'll get to that in just a second. Alright, so here's the finished rounded edge. That's where the hole was. And I've got the sides contoured to match a 1/4 inch radius. So the brake, when I finish with the brake and put it on, it'll seat flush up against that all the way around, and should work out nicely. It's turning out fairly decent for how I was thinking it would go. It's not nearly as troublesome as I thought it was going to be. Alright, so I'm going to take just a real light skim cut through. This is bored open. Just right now it's right at a 12 gauge cylinder, so I've got a little bit to take off. I'm just going to come in and just take a real light cut all the way down just to clean it, and then I'm going to set a depth and get a different boring bar to do the boring to size for the tolerance fit. So I'm trying this out with my GoPro mount on the magnetic base that I made, so we'll see how it turns out. Right. That looks fairly good. Alright, so I'm going to set up my other boring bar and bring you back in a second.